everyone. My name is Najat Khan. I'm the Chief Data Science Officer and the Global Head of R&D Strategy and Operations for Janssen R&D, the pharmaceutical companies of Johnson & Johnson. Today, I'm very excited to talk to you about data science, the use of data science to really better understand this pandemic, to be able to translate some of the unknowns to knowns by predicting many aspects of what would help us build, design, and develop a really effective vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine for the world. There's so many aspects of the pandemic that do seem unknown and unpredictable. We definitely felt that way back in February, March of 2020. But this is where machine learning and data science broadly comes in. There's so many different types of data sets being generated across the entire world. How do we harness the power of machine learning and AI to be able to answer extremely important questions? First question. How is the pandemic moving? How is it so dynamic, but how is it actually being transmitted? And where is it transmitted? So we built a surveillance dashboard that really helped us better understand how the disease was actually spreading across the world. And then we looked at it at a county level to country, all of the way across the world. Why was this important? Having such good understanding of how the disease was spreading was crucial for us to build predictive models as to how it might spread going forward. The second piece was also understanding who might be at risk. We had a lot of anecdotal evidence, but we really needed clear, data-driven understanding of who was highest at risk. And for that, it meant mining a lot of different data sets, claims data, electronic health records, lab data, and more. And that's another area that we used. So both of these components, while it might seem unpredictable, honestly scary because it's a new pandemic, machine learning and data science can really help us effectively and also rapidly be able to gain better understanding of many aspects of the disease. No, absolutely not. I feel like almost any discipline requires great ideas that come from the inside and outside. And at Johnson & Johnson, one of our philosophies is to be agnostic to internal and external innovation. As I mentioned, great ideas can come from anywhere. And with that in mind, for several aspects of what we've done with data science for our COVID-19 program have had excellent external partners. First, building our predictive models using machine learning, we partnered very closely with MIT and Dr. Dimitris Bertemus's lab, as well as other organizations such as the CDC, broadly the US government, and then also IHME. Second, there's also another effort that we're working on, which is called tokenization. This really looks at how do we connect the real-world data that a patient has before a trial or after a trial with their clinical trial data. This gives the most holistic view of a patient's longitudinal journey and data. And the reason why it's important is it helps us contextualize in-trial safety over a much longer period of time beyond the timeline of the trial. This is something we're also doing with external partners such as Health Verity and DataBand. It's a first in the industry example. And then the third, I would also say, is we are looking at external control arms. This is a concept that has taken off quite a bit in data science, but not so much in the vaccine space. But we think this could really help us as we consider the safety and just a deeper understanding of how people are doing in the real world who've been vaccinated or have not been vaccinated. So there's multiple efforts that we're working on, and external partners, external data sets, external ideas have been instrumental to what we're doing. These efforts have been truly central to our vaccine candidate in a few ways. First of all, the machine learning-based predictive models really helped us guide where we should be setting up our sites for a clinical trial. Why is this important? Because if we're in areas of high incidence, that means that we will collect the endpoints for our trial faster. And the faster we collect them, the faster we can actually get efficacy signal as to whether our vaccine is working or not. This we were able to do. Our models were about 90% accurate, which is extremely high. So this has been a huge help for us as we've been doing our analyses. The second way that these predictions have also been helpful is it's allowed us to be in regions where unfortunately there are a lot of emerging COVID variants. I'm sure some of you in the audience have heard about the UK variant, the South Africa variant, or at least the variant that originated in South Africa, the variant that also originated in Brazil. There are multiple. And the reason why that's important is it helps us to build a vaccine and to develop a vaccine that's relevant for our near future, because we believe that unfortunately some of these emerging variants could become dominant in the future, and then helps us to have clinical data, which we do in terms of the efficacy against these variants. And then the third way I would say that, a lot of what we've done in data science has also helped with our vaccine program is the overall sample size. So, you probably saw in the news that we went from 60,000 to about 45,000 subjects in our trial. And this was because the incidence was so high that we were able to accumulate rich data sets very quickly. So the more we accelerated that, it also accelerated our development timelines. So all three aspects really ensured a very rich, thorough analysis of our vaccine, but in a very quick timeline while keeping safety and all of the quality in mind as well. One of the other areas that we've also worked on is really understanding the intrinsic biological factors that put somebody at high risk versus lower risk for COVID, or at least a spectrum of risk. So we partnered with a lot of different hospitals in the US and globally in order to get access to electronic health records to really be able to mine that using NLP, natural language processing, and also AI to determine what those risk factors are. And those were really important for us as we designed our vaccine trials so that we could ensure we have the right cohorts and the right types of subjects so that we're testing, like I was mentioning before, diverse subjects. We have tested, elderly subjects. We have tested subjects with, other who are immunocompromised with HIV, for instance. So it was really important for us to have that base understanding of the risk profile for COVID to design our clinical trial programs. An example, for us, for instance, diversity was extremely important. So our trial is one of the most diverse COVID vaccine trials, probably the most, with about 20% African American and Black population, and then also about 40+% Latinx and Hispanic, and the rest, being other races as well. And what we did for that is when we actually built our machine learning algorithms, we ensured that we over-indexed on regions and areas which would be representative of different races and different ethnicities. This was extremely important because when we went to do our predictions, we were in the right places. When we went to do our trial, I should say, we were in the right places and ensured that we resulted in having high diversity in our trial. Again, this is an example of data science where instead of thinking about this later on in our program, we have blended it in, diversity, socioeconomic status, very early on in our selection process, so that we, not only test, but actually build a vaccine that's representative of the world that we will vaccinate. That is such a great question, because as we talk about developing a vaccine or many of the other medicines that that our scientists are working on, it's of paramount importance that we keep them safe. And in order to do that, we actually have an initiative, which is the Return to Workplace initiative. And our core tenet was to keep our employees safe, but to do it in a highly data-driven manner. And we did that by leveraging, again, data science. We actually built something called COVID Lens, which was a surveillance tool that we're still using on a daily and weekly basis to monitor the transmission of COVID-19, everything from infections to death rate to hospitalization. We leverage our predictive models that I mentioned for our program, also for our own locations and labs. And we have so many folks also in our supply chain teams that are on site. And then to be able to be extremely agile in our decision making. When do we ensure that we de-densify some of our labs because maybe the infection rates are going up? We also, of course, have real-time PCR tests as well. So all of these many different elements, different levels of PPE usage, all of that is happening, but data science has been a core aspect of how do we use a very data-driven, real-time data-driven approach in order to keep our employees safe.